Welcome to the Design Right podcast called TiddlyCast. This is our second episode, and we've changed things up a little bit. Look, I have a black background, so we'll see if it gets better. Appreciate all your comments that we've gotten, and those have been great. So today we have a guest, Dave Gifford, and I'm going to let Dave introduce himself, and we'll take a little walk through TiddlyStory. Couldn't resist. Dave, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks, Steve and Magenta.
So tell me a bit about your first encounter with TiddlyWiki, when that was and what you were looking to do, and then maybe bring us up to the present.
Okay, I discovered TiddlyWiki sometime in 2006. I teach New Testament at a seminary here in Mexico. I'm a missionary with Resonate Global Mission. And the seminary was looking at online courses, possibility of online courses. And so I was doing some investigating, and I was looking at Moodle, and everybody on Moodle at that point was talking about TiddlyWiki, this new thing that had just come out maybe a year before. And they were pretty excited. And so I checked out TiddlyWiki, and long story short, I never really used Moodle. But I fell in love with TiddlyWiki from the start. I saw it as a great way of giving course packets to my students. And that was my first, envisioned use of it. But then I used it for productivity, and now I use it for web publishing. I create static HTMLs and upload those to my Spanish materials website. And I just use it in general for reading and note-taking and productivity and keeping track of things.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a multi. Do you use and you use other tools as well in this sort of space, right? Like of keeping track of things and note taking, and when you say productivity, is that kind of keeping track of your to-do list and stuff that you want to get done?
Yeah, calendar and
Okay.
tasks, and I have like this week's tasks, but then I have like gather by topic, and I check those, and then and add to the this week's to-do list from that. Yep.
So are you a tinkerer? Do you tinker with mechanical objects and tools and stuff like that, or only in the
I
digital
don't
space?
tinker in the physical world if I can help it. I'm terrible at maintenance and that kind of stuff. But with TiddlyWiki, the learning curve was really high at first. When I came in, obviously I was one of the first ones, and it was really geared towards people who were coders and developers. And so I came up with a tutorial called TiddlyWiki for the Rest of Us for TiddlyWiki Classic. And that got used by thousands and thousands and thousands of people at the time. It was very popular. And
I remember using that.
Did you? Okay.
Because I face the same, say, what is this thing? How do I even start it? But yeah.
Yeah, and I created a precursor to the tool map called TiddlyVault that had lists of plugins and themes and things for TiddlyWiki Classic as well. Just for me, but I thought, well, if I'm going to do all this work for me, I'm going to share it too,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. So what's the inspiration for sharing, do you think?
I just am grateful that TiddlyWiki is open source and all these plugins are open source, and so I keep asking questions on the Google forum, and I figure, well, I'm getting all these free resources and free help, so I want to be able to share freely the things that I do as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you participate in other open source communities than TiddlyWiki, or is this
No, just TiddlyWiki?
Okay, I wonder, how many of the TiddlyWiki participants, and I call you a participant or an active participant, a teacher. I think you're one of the leading teachers we have right now, and been at it forever. I wonder how many of you, how many of them are different communities and do the same thing for all different platforms, or just TiddlyWiki. It's just we'll find out, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I want to shift our conversation to Stroll.
Okay.
And, I'm sure it's and you've brought it up on the screen, I see. So tell me, why don't you walk us? Let's take a stroll through Stroll and tell us what it is.
Okay. Stroll basically was an experiment of mine started really around January of 2020. I discovered Rome Research, which is really popular on Twitter. I discovered it through Twitter and played around with it with the beta version that they had, and really liked the bidirectional linking, and I liked that you could have 2 pages side by side and a lot of different things about it. But then I thought, I bet you I can reproduce quite a bit of this in TiddlyWiki. The bidirectional linking already exists. It's just a matter of making it more accessible and more easy to use. And I could use the sidebar in order to make a second column kind of thing. And so I created this thing called TiddlyBlink, which is an earlier version of my Rome imitation in TiddlyWiki. And that was great. And Anne Laura, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, but Anne Laura Lecumpf, she really grabbed onto this and got a lot of people into TiddlyBlink and using TiddlyWiki and TiddlyBlink for producing their idea gardens or mind gardens.
That was that's that Nest Labs article, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make sure to add a link to show notes, and now you're going to hold me to it. So you said there would be show notes, so we'll do show notes on this one. Yeah, I read that article. Actually, that's how I found out about Stroll.
Oh, okay. And so then Zach Imtiaz came along and helped me come up with the 2 story rivers aspect of Stroll. And so I decided to leave TiddlyBlink as it was, and just since Stroll was very different and more refined, I went ahead and created it as kind of a new version, new adaptation of TiddlyWiki. So basically, let me just walk you through it. I'm gonna just create I'll just leave it new Tiddler 1. And I'm gonna create a link to.
Would you do? We're working with the students in our class. That Magenta's teaching one section, and Doug, who I think is hoping to join us at some point. We're just talking about new tiddlers. Would you mind naming that tiddler? Because when you don't name a tiddler, just especially if you've never used TiddlyWiki, my thought is get in that habit of naming your tiddlers when you create them.
Okay.
There you go. Thanks.
Did I get that right?
You did.
All right. And then I'm going to create a link to Magenta. I can spell it right. And Ward. And that's good enough for now. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up, and you notice that it didn't create the new tiddler, and that's fine. Now I've got 2 tiddlers. I've got Steve at SUNY Poly and Magenta and Ward. Now you can see this arrow key, this arrow icon. That's a button to divert the Magenta tiddler over into a second column. So now I have 2 story rivers side by side. And
that is awesome.
Yeah, and I can create more tiddlers. I'm on the online version, so none of this is going to get saved, but and I can do that. And so I can just keep adding more and more things. There are ways of, let me see here. I've got it set up so both the left and right column have, you can have multiple tiddlers, but you can choose to have one or the other be one tiddler only. That way it's kind of stationary.
So so when you do one tiddler only, that's essentially like the story view, right?
No, it just basically only allows one tiddler in that story river.
Yeah, okay.
And so then the other river becomes this scrollable thing. If I have let's just do one more. And divert that one too. And so then you can scroll and you can see all your content from your other tiddlers and compare it to this one. Um,
Do you work on a large screen to do these multi-story rivers?
I don't know. Mine is not terribly large. I think it's a 15
Okay, yeah,
inch
so yeah, that's
laptop.
great. No, this is what, so that's great. What's the
And
magenta and ward in the Steve at SUNY Poly Tiddler? What is that?
that's a link. So I just basically created a link with double
Yep.
bracket in that just so that I could quickly create you can have things open in both columns as well. That's the interesting thing too. So I can have magenta and ward open here in view mode, but then I can also have it in edit mode over here too. So I could do,
So show us that. So you can edit magenta and ward, and we're gonna
yeah,
see. Yeah.
so I can create a link back to Steve, and you can notice the autocomplete plugin by the edit comp text plugin by Snowgoon 88. That's a really great feature that I was able to put into Stroll.
I'm gonna ask you to go back to that. Would you show us that behavior again, the magenta
Sure.
and ward? So because you're in separate story windows, it's not going to update in the first story window until you
Oh, but
save
it did.
Tiddler, right?
But it did already. You can see Steve at SUNY Poly and the magenta and ward in the left column.
Sure, but as we're seeing, as you're typing now.
Oh yeah, while I'm editing, no.
Yeah, okay, no, and that's because if you shifted to the view, and this is a little confusing if you've never used it, if you shift the view of this Tiddler so that you can see what is it, the last button in the, yeah, you can see the side by side within your story window.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I forget
Yeah.
because then we'd see it up, so then you'd almost have like 3 versions of the same Tiddler in front of you.
Oh, I see what you mean.
That one, yes, that
like
one,
that, yeah.
exactly. So now, yes, so because when you, in some ways, it looks like you have 2 story windows in a Tiddler, and I know that when you start, that's like, huh, what's going on? So that's why there's going to be differences here. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So go ahead and finish that link up. Right. There you go. That's what I was trying to get at. That's very cool. I've never seen that happen. And so who's this autofill? This is where, how are you getting the Dave Gifford automatically?
That is, I started to mention it, the
Yeah.
edit comp text plugin by Snowgoon 88. And it's an autocomplete plugin. And I use it all the time. It makes things a lot easier. So now I've got part of my link written, but I can just hit enter and it adds it to that. And once I save the changes, then it becomes visible in the view mode. Mm-hmm.
And there's 2, what's under the line there?
Okay.
That's the magic, right?
That is the bidirectional linking magic. So you can see that under the horizontal line, you have a list of all of the tiddlers that link back to this tiddler. So within Steve at SUNY Poly, there's a link to magenta and ward, and that is why there's a backlink to that here. This is a list of all of the tiddlers that backlink to this tiddler. And you can view those in different ways. I have it right now as simple links, but you can do it as tabs, or you can do it as highlights in context, or you can hide them if you don't want them, or you can have the full text so that it's got the link title. And then also, this is also a link, but it has the content of Steve at SUNY Poly here in the gray box. And you can see that magenta and ward links to my tiddler. And this is the content of magenta and ward in this gray box. That way I can not only see the content of this tiddler, I can also see the content of all the tiddlers that link back to this one. And then the other option is to have the full text, but have it hidden under a slider so that you can just check each one separately.
And
so
for that slider,
mm-hmm.
you're using TiddlyWiki's built-in fold capacity. Is that the function you're using there? What are you?
I haven't gotten to the fold yet. No.
Oh,
no, it's a.
You just chose the. Yeah. What are you doing for sliders?
I forget now how it
Okay.
works. I can actually just
No, that's
open
fine.
it
No, no,
though.
no. And you know what's great? It's fine. We're because we're working with especially people who are brand new. It's like, wow, how did you do that? And some of the stuff's easy to get to.
Yeah,
Some of it's a little tougher. We talked all about the Appear plugin yesterday, and I've kind of moved on to the details plugin, but the plugins are what it's all about at some level, right? To get anywhere.
yeah, it's funny,
Yeah.
the details plugin. I just find it way easier just to create an editor toolbar button with the HTML details element and just plug it in. And I don't use any kind of I don't use the details widget plugin at all, because the details widget uh, doesn't work when you export as as a static HTML. And so I just use the regular details element because that will continue to work even after you export it.
Wow, okay. I will track that down too, and I'll make when I listen, I'll try to make a note and follow up on that because yeah, I've not really mastered the toolbar buttons yet, and so because that's a challenge, right? So all this fancy stuff we build, then when you export to
Mhm.
static HTML, you lose it, but you can retain the effective details.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
This you were asking about how do I do the collapsing of
Yeah.
this is the tiddler involved. I don't want to do that. The view template refs transclude collapse tiddler, and basically it's got the reveal. So
Yep.
it's a reveal widget, and inside there's a list filter, and then the reveal type, and there's a button class
Yep.
for the actual button to open and close it. And yeah, the unfold button, that's the unfold icon, definitely, but it's not the actual
Yes.
fold and unfold functioning.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah. And
Yep.
so what's interesting is so Dave goes deep into writing his own templates and stuff, and we do as well, but also the plugins make a lot of these capabilities accessible to brand new users
Yeah.
in the first couple of times they're working with it, and then you'll say, oh, this is interesting, and do the deeper dive.
Yeah.
Dave, if you don't mind, I'd like to pose a bit of a challenge to you.
Okay.
So when I saw this, I was trying to figure out what's the difference between your conception of a backlink and a tag. So for example, in the Magenta and Ward Tiddler, if you tag that with Steve at SUNY Poly,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So walk us through what's the difference between the backlink, or am I just, so if you click on
Yeah.
the Steve at SUNY Poly, it's on the Magenta, it's going to tell you, it's going to take you to there, right?
Right. I mean, originally how do I say this? Tags are usually used to create parent categories. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have a bunch of tiddlers that are all animals, then you could create the tag animals. And then you could, you're basically creating a list by doing that, a list of all of the tiddlers that are tagged animals.
Yep.
And then you can use that in different ways. And that's great. However, I tend to use uh, a lot of parent categories or a lot of links. And the advantage of using links is that you can create any number of, if you create too many tags, either it's going to slow your file down, or it's just going to create this long list of tags every time you want to create a new tag. The list is just going to keep getting
Yep.
longer and
Okay.
longer. Just even with a dozen I've got, I have to scroll just to see them all. I tend to use I'll just show you from another thing. I tend to use a thing that flattens it a little bit more so that you can see them horizontally.
Mm-hmm.
But in Stroll, I left it the default because I want to make it let other people customize it as they will.
Okay. So
And
thank you. So I appreciate that. So you've really, I think, demonstrated what the important difference is at a hypertextuality level between
Yeah.
a backlink and a tag. And that's a really, and tagging is a fundamental feature that I identified as a fundamental feature, but I hadn't really put backlinks in there. And I'm thinking that you might be right about that. If you change the name of Steve at SUNY Poly, it updates. Is that correct?
Yes. Let me double check. Mm-hmm.
And then it
So you
refreshes.
can see here, Steve at DesignRight, and let's see the tag as well. Yes. So yeah, I have the relink plugin built into this as well. Yeah, when I decided to do Stroll and TiddlyBlink, I thought, well, if I'm doing bi-directional linking, I want to imitate as much of Roam research as I can, just for fun, just as an experiment. And so yeah, I needed, since Roam had relinking, I said I need to see if that's available in TiddlyWiki, and it was with that plugin, and the autocomplete as well, and that was, and so that really made it powerful. And when people in the TiddlyWiki community started to see all those things put together in a package like that, it was like, wow, linking became linking was kind of the second cousin to tagging in TiddlyWiki for a long time.
Yep.
And I think now it's kind of earned its place, and that's a big thanks to Roam, which really focuses on linking.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. Is that and you put it so elegantly, right? Linking and tagging are two of the key features, and I think you're right that Roam's research work has focused everyone's attention in this space on the differences and the power of linking as well. And for Tiddly Roam, and I've just begun to experiment a little bit with that. Someone took your Stroll product, matched it with Tiddly Map, and call it Tiddly Roam. And
That's
so
right.
and the mapping is a whole different part of Roam that I'm also not familiar with, and I hope to get someone to show us Tiddly Map and Tiddly Roam in the coming week. So that's
yeah. I had never worked with Tiddly Map, so when I tried to fuse the two, it just didn't work really well. And with Stroll, I tried to fuse it with Stroll, but because, well, let me just show you here. Even with my decent wide laptop screen, it's pretty crunched up. The titles go way down, and yeah, you don't have a lot of room on anything. And on a narrower screen, it's even worse, of course. And so Tiddly Map really needs a good wide sidebar in order to work. It shows up as a sidebar tab. And when I've got things as small as I can just to make a 2-column system work, I can't really squeeze it in. And I think there were some other technical issues as well that we never really quite worked out. Zach and I both looked at that and thought, it's just not working. But yeah, I worked with TiddlyBlink since TiddlyBlink didn't have a 2-column structure. And so yeah, it was interesting to see. I felt like they put more work into the onboarding page for Tiddly Roam than they did in trying to clean it up. And they just kind of threw the things together and left it as is, even some of the kind of the outdated parts of TiddlyBlink. But yeah, it was nice. It was a nice compliment to show that, the Roam part of it really worked in Stroll. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love the I love that part of the TiddlyWiki community. There's so many projects that are sort of half started, so you can pick them up, and and then at the same time, there's products that are like Stroll that are pretty highly refined and work. So you find everything, and everybody's, I think the spirit of contributing is just, it's amazing. So seeing Stroll, and of course knowing that Roam research costs quite a chunk, this is fabulous. And I would agree that based so far, at least, I've always been looking for this relinking, and I just had never quite gotten to figure out how to do it. So so I really appreciate what you've done, and appreciate your deep understanding of these hypertext concepts of linking and tagging, and the subtle differences between them.
Yeah. If I could just quick show you a
Yeah, if there's
couple
anything
more
I was going to
things.
say, show us the other cool stuff you got here.
All right, you mentioned the fold before. What I tend to do is I'll have let's close this up just so I have that one. And then I tend to use the fold feature that hides everything and gives you more space. That way, if you've got 8 or 9 different things you want to be able to scroll up and down and see all of them quickly. And so yeah, that's a handy feature. And then I have new here buttons, and that basically creates a new tiddler that links to the tiddler that I created it from. It's similar to the new here button that tags a tiddler with that tiddler's tag, but this does the same thing but with a link instead. That way
Wow.
it's very quick to create not only a new tiddler but also the backlinking as well.
That's okay. So that's basically a new here, exactly as you explained it, a new here with a link instead of a tag.
Exactly.
Did you make an icon for that?
No, I just stole the new here,
okay.
the new tiddler button, and the new here and new journal here are still there for tagging. But I have them hidden since I wanted to focus on links for Stroll.
Yeah, that's a new linked here is a whole new TiddlyWiki command that's different than new tagged here. I like that. And that's the new journal with a tag that you just
journal.
showed.
There's no tag, but it does
new
have
journal with a link. New journal with a link.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And let's see, any other interesting parts of things? You can also adjust the proportions of the two columns.
Okay.
Which is even handier when you get it in there. If you want one really wide and one narrow,
they share the same toolbars though, right?
So say again.
Story River 1 and Story River 2 share toolbars. You can't have separate toolbars in the different rivers.
Which toolbars are you thinking of?
The Tiddler tool, the view template toolbar. So you can't, for example, in Story River 1 have all the buttons hidden except for the close, which would allow you to make it really narrow.
Oh, yeah, the narrow and wide I do over in the sidebar.
Yeah, no, yeah. Version 2.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the question is. I'm sorry.
Oh, so what you do, say where tomorrow is, you'd hide all the toolbars in the tiddler called tomorrow, except for say close and more info. And on the Story River 2, so then you could make it really narrow and your toolbar wouldn't wrap. And then in Story River 2 on today, you'd want the full suite of tools available, fold and everything else. No,
each tiddler has its own toolbar independently. They're not connected in any way.
Right. Yeah. No. Yep. This is wonderful stuff. And can you show us the control panel for, and I just want to take a very quick look at the plugins that you're using.
Sure. All right.
And you might have an easier way to get there. If you could just walk us through the different plugins, I think that I'm going to make that a feature because because really we're building on each other's work and seeing which plugins you've created, but also which ones you're using that others might want to get. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually create a plugin for this. This was just a combination of other people's plugins. And then for me, I have some view template and edit template tiddlers and some style sheet tiddlers and a couple other things. But yeah, I have stories. That was the plugin created by Zach Imtiaz specifically for Stroll. And that's all it's really meant for, is just to help Stroll do the two columns. That's the one that creates the 2 columns. Let's see. Yeah, so these are the view template tiddlers that allow you to change the way you view the backlinks.
Okay.
And then I have just some configuration stuff. And then down here are let me see if I've got a macro. No, I don't. So basically down here is are the plugins. I've got the context plugin is the one that lets you see results as highlights in context.
Okay.
The relink is obviously when you relink when you rename a tiddler, all the links get updated.
Okay.
Snowgoon edit context is the autocomplete plugin.
Okay.
And then I have Sachs editor auto list. I didn't really show you that. Let me this was something I kind of asked him for it and he created it. He's pretty cool like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so basically I use Dynalist, as you know.
We're going to go there next.
Yep. And I wanted something that recreated at least a little bit of the functionality of the really rapid writing in outliners, and Dynalist is an outliner program. And so I've got basically I hit enter and it adds an asterisk at the beginning of the line. That way I can do a bulleted list rather quickly rather than have to wrap them and add asterisks manually and everything. So it makes it really fast. And then I can hit the tab button to indent it one. And oops. And it stays there. It stays at 3 until I back up, and then I can do that. And then, and as you can see the results there. So yeah, I really like that a lot.
That's it. Yeah, I'm a big outliner, and that's that. I will check that out. I was about to ask you, and you got to that. I just hit tab, and it takes you. Yeah, so that it does your indent. Shift tab do an outdent or not yet?
I'm sorry.
Shift tab, does that do an outdent?
Shift tab, yes, it does.
Yep, there you go. That's the same behavior in Microsoft Word.
Yep.
Tab and shift tab. Yep. Beautiful.
That's the same in Dynalist as well.
Yep. Okay.
Let me see if I think there was one other plugin. Oh, the highlighter plugin is built in. That's a core plugin.
Yep.
And then link to tabs basically creates these little link icons. That way you can open it up really quickly. I love link to tabs. I use a lot of tabs, and for years in TiddlyWiki, I would just have to figure out what the name of the thing was and open it up. And now it's just a click, and there it is. So I really like that. That's by Mario.
Doug Cohen has joined us. Hello, Doug.
Hi, everyone. My apologies for being late.
No,
Dave,
you're not late.
Nice to meet you.
You've missed the stroll. You've missed the
Nice to
stroll.
meet you, Doug.
So, Dave, this is great. Thanks so much for the extensive tour of Stroll. And I wondered if we could turn your attention now to Dynalist.
Sure.
And I think Dynalist is really interesting. I have looked at it, and I was wondering if you could give us a little tour, but in context of TiddlyWiki and why Dynalist? What does it do that TiddlyWiki doesn't do?
Okay. Yeah. Well, Dynalist is an outliner program. Workflowy was kind of the first really big outliner program on the web. And Dynalist was created by people who were using Workflowy and got frustrated at the lack of development. So they came up with their own version, but they really upped the ante by adding the sidebar that you can go to different there are different documents within. Now I can't figure out where's the. Oh yeah, I need to go back to the. Anyway, so sorry, I lost track here. You have the different documents, and you can move quickly between them. In addition to, so basically each of these documents is its own workflowy, because so it's just a number of workflowy documents in a sense, because they're all infinite outliners. So yeah, what I really like about outliner programs is that I can just write very quickly and organize. And something that TiddlyWiki cannot do in any way, well, I think with SAC Streams plugin, you can, but you can reorganize things. You can slide things around or move them back. So it's really great for organizing as you write. And it's kind of easy to add bold and add color. I should warn you, I have I'm a Dynalist Pro user, so I have a lot of CSS in here that makes it look different than what anyone else looking at the toolmap would see right now. Just so you know. But
does Dynalist take, when you move outline elements, does it take the children with it? So if you move introduction or table of contents,
it does. Yes,
it does. Okay, so it replicates. So yeah, so it basically replicates the functionality of Microsoft Word, which is I find an amazing outliner.
Yep.
And I've used it for, and you can open and close. Does it export to TiddlyWiki? Does it export as JSON files?
No, I can show you. Let me see here. Export. You can export as OPML, plain text, and formatted. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never really gotten the formatted one to work and anything, so I don't really know. And then you can choose your indentation style. One problem that I find is that just to be able to see the rest of it, I have to, but yeah, you can download it or you can copy it to the clipboard. Yeah.
So if you were
outliner, you can zoom into a section so that you're just seeing that, and you've got breadcrumb menu to get back to where you came from. If I wanted just to do color palette, but there's nothing in there, obviously, so I can go back up to the table of contents, and I can go to the introduction. And so yeah, it's neat. You can zoom in and out. You can you can add notes. That's another thing that is different from a lot of other programs. So like I can create a note, and I forget now I'll just do it this way. Add a note, and then when I move away from it, I have different ways of viewing notes. You can hide it completely, and it's just a little icon. You can show the first line, or you can show it. There's a lot of different things you can do with. It's a really great program, and so I keep subscribing to it year after year. It's great for certain things, and then TiddlyWiki is great for other things. And so I just, between those two products, I tend not to use Word or Google Docs except for documents I need for my employer. I don't use Roam, or I can't afford to use Roam.
So Doug, jump on in, and I'm glad you're able to join us. And so we kind of walked through Stroll, and now we'll take a look at Dynalist. And this is the first of the non-TiddlyWiki hypertext products. So jump right in.
Honestly, no questions. As I've been playing with Stroll, I've just been thoroughly impressed, because I really think it takes everything that Steve and I have really ventured to do together over the last 10 years and put it into one cohesive interface. I think actually, and I think even across TiddlyWiki Classic times, the way you did the backlinking with the different options actually reminded me of a TiddlyWiki Classic of, what was it, tagging. And that approach. And that was a huge, powerful thing that Steve and I relied on back in the day, quote unquote, when we started doing this. And seeing the list functionality that you showed with Dynalist, but even the different tools, I just see tremendous possibilities. And for my day job, I work at an academic medical center where Stroll really does make a lot of sense. And so, like I said, no questions, but I'm sort of infinitely grateful for this presentation, so that I can really see how I can look to adapt it in my day job.
Great, thanks, Doug.
So if we're gonna let's wrap up with maybe you could take us back to your Stroll screen, your first tab there, so we're looking at it. where do you see this? I'm trying to frame the question. What I want to get at is, where do you see this renewed energy that seems to be, we'll call it the Rome flashbang or something like that? That there just seems to be a lot of attention, and folks paying attention to note-taking software like Stroll, like Rome, and this month like TiddlyWiki. Where do you see the next steps going, and what do you think would be the one of the things that you might expect to be able to develop, or kinds of services that we could offer to folks moving forward? What do you think would be the place where stuff is going, or perhaps you might want to answer that. What are you doing next?
I keep playing around with stuff. It's kind of funny. I use bidirectional linking all the time, but I don't actually use Stroll. That's not to say it's not helpful, but it's just I keep playing with stuff and keep tinkering. And so like I've got a couple tools that I've created recently, and I've got video. I got a video of this one on I just put up yesterday, and it's available on my Twitter feed or at the Google forum. But basically, it's a reading. It's a workflow. It's great for taking notes on reading books. So like, let me start with, I created a source tiddler. Let me find one here. Man's Search for Meaning by Frankl. I finished reading this book and taking notes on it, but basically I added a source tag so that it's a source tiddler, so that it shows up here in the list of sources, and it's filterable, obviously. But and I've got backlinks here, and but they're backlinks as a list search, so I can narrow it down quickly. But that's really not the key issue. What happens then is I can take a note, note tiddler, and I don't have to tag it with anything, and I can start typing, and I'm going to type Man's Search for Meaning. And well, I'm sorry, I'm not showing you this right. I'm going to just create let's say this is a note that I took on Man's Search for Meaning. If I go to this button here, that's an add basically, well, sorry, I didn't do this in the right order. I'm trying to do things too quickly here.
I see what you have to set the current source that you're working with,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Got it.
All right. And then let me get rid of this too. And I can't do yet anyway. I'm asking about it on the, let me just grab it here. All right, what's going on here? Oh, I know. It's because it's in draft mode.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep, I know. Yep.
A little technological hang up here. I go to the current source, and I'm just going to do this, right?
So you just took the tiddler name and pasted it into the tiddler source.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And then I'll save that, and yeah, I'll just start another one. And so this is a note. A little longer, and then I'm gonna hit that button, and what happens is it adds the link to Man's Search for Meaning, and it wraps it in a div class, and it's hidden. And I'll explain. And then I tend to add the page number, and I'm going to say that it's a quote, like I copied and pasted it or something like that. Then when I save it, I've got that, but I go up here to this I button and I can hide it too. That way I can either just read my content without all the distraction from all the references, or I can go in and see what the actual reference and page number that was from, and then I can go here and see if I have like the bibliographic information here, or what page I read to, or other topics and so forth. And that's just one good way of doing that.
I love that. I'm working on a we're working on sort of a comprehensive bibliography of hypertext and hypertextuality literature, and been looking for a place to organize it. And I'm liking a lot of what you're doing here.
I still got a second column in here, even though it's not, we're using the Stroll setup, but I basically just dragged the link to here, and now you can see it has the title
Nice.
and the content. And I can, that way, if I'm open, I could view, you know, two different things side by side. And then I've also got the same thing in here, but with edit mode, so that I can click on that and it gives me the editing version. That way, if I go in here and I want to add this bit here, I can copy and paste it quickly and it's there. I could also do the same by transclusion, but you know, if you're working quickly between one and the other, you can, like if you want to move things around, you can.
Well, this is fabulous. Thanks.
Yeah, the other thing I'm working on, well, I quickly show you this. You've probably seen my customizer plugin. I basically just kind of adapted that. This would be something I'd like to look at in Stroll, but I can change the, like for example, I can show the subtitle, I can hide the tags, I can even hide the title if I want to.
What are we seeing here? Your config UI?
Yeah.
I don't know that one. Okay.
Well, I have the customizer plugin.
Okay.
Let me show you that. This is something that you can get available here. This is their website. And basically, I can customize the sidebar or customize the edit and view template.
Nice.
So in the sidebar, I can add the default sidebar and have it there. Or I can hide that. I can add search and hide that. And then I've got a bunch of sidebar add-ons like advanced search is right there. I created my own book tools for bibliography, glossary, and table of contents. And so basically what I set this up almost like a store, even though you don't pay for anything, everything's free. But you can add, you can get the plugin itself, the customizer plugin, and that adds this bit here. And then you can add sidebar add-ons, and I've got descriptions of each one. And view template add-ons, and I've got, you know, basic descriptions of basically backlink add-ons, but you can do other things with the view template. And instructions on how to create your own add-ons as well.
Can you go back to the view template add-ons? Because I think what you've done here is, as I get it, you've just allowed anyone to take the customizer plugin and implement backlinks, but not necessarily use Stroll.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, so you took the kernel of backlinks and said, well, this is just standalone. You can do whatever you want. You don't need Stroll, but you can just do that's and then you do them as filterable links, so you can filter the backlinks. Yep.
There's
and in context, that's great. Yeah, that's amazing. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
All great stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, and so yeah, customizer plugin is just this mix and match kind of thing, you know, pick what you want and use it. So yeah, this is, I just basically took some of the stuff from the customizer plugin and put it in here. And then the other thing I worked on yesterday is basically I'm trying to do something. It was something I saw in your last week's program where Jeremy was showing this thing for counseling youth, and and he clicked on a button and it brought up the list of all the things you go through. And I thought, wouldn't that be great to have something like that? So I was working on this yesterday, and basically what it is each tiddler, what I do is each tiddler, I use the list column to add the parent topic. So in a sense, it's almost like tagging, but in a field. And then I've got a button here so that you can see the parent tiddler's link, but also the contents. And I added the same content 3 times just so you could see the scrolling. But yeah, it's got a little pop-up and you can do it that way. Now, if I go to that one, then I can go there and then I can see the parent from there. So yeah, I had never really thought of it in terms of that. And I thought that would really be great to try to play with that. So that it's just kind of in the early stages.
Yeah,
just
that's
playing with
well,
that. Yes.
we'll look forward to that. And we'll be sure to tag these out as separate little demos. I think there'll be tags, maybe backlinks. I'll have to work on that logic. Dave, it's been such a pleasure to spend some time with you and to see all your tools, and I appreciate all the work you do and all the time you spent with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay. And Doug, we'll see you again. Magenta, thanks for the production, and we'll be sharing this out soon.